Morning. Friday, August 23rd, 2024. I'm Larissa. My video diary. Time to make some skulls. So, the floor, as of yesterday, was still not done at the new place. And I'm gonna have to start bringing stuff in. And I'm a little, more than a little unimpressed with this guy's doing the installation because I've put in vinyl flooring before. Granted, it was in a smaller, much smaller space. However, it required a lot more cutting and fitting, and it only took me like half an hour to do. It was a small space. It was in a bathroom. Um, but this is not a bathroom, and there's no angular cuts that need to be made. They're all straight cuts. So I'm not sure why this is taking so long. Um, I mean, it's a large space, okay. But this is a job that for two men would have been an afternoon. For one guy, maybe like 2 days. I don't understand why this is taking so goddamn long. And you know, this should not be taking that long. This job should not be taking that long. There was no installation of any kind of subflooring. All it's a matter of is sweeping the floor, right? Sweeping the concrete underneath, and then putting down the adhesive. I mean, Omar and I put up that it took me 2 days to put up the corkboard on the walls, right? And the only reason it took 2 days is because the first day I measured everything out, chalked everything off, and then it only took Omar and I one day to put that up on the wall. That was on a wall, right? Like this should be done. This really, really should be done. And whatever. So I'm a little bit irritated. Hmm. I've mudded walls. The house in Santa Rosa, it took me 2 weeks to patch all of those walls, to take down wallpaper, patch the walls, prime and paint cabinets. And some of those walls I had to mud. Some of those walls I did stucco on, right? Like, granted, I'm older now. It would take me longer now as I'm older, but this was when I was in my late 20s, like, anyway. I'm gonna start moving stuff in this weekend. It's gonna have to happen. Yeah. It's gonna have to happen. Mm. Yeah. So last night we had tamales. I forgot. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that I made them, and I put them in the freezer, right? So they were frozen. I thawed them in the fridge during the day, and then put them in the toaster oven, right, to reheat them because they were already steamed. I've got 5 in there that have not been steamed that need to be steamed, um, but the ones that I reheated last night were ones that had already been steamed. So 2 pork ones for Omar and 2 cactus and cheese for me. They're so good. I had forgotten just how delicious they are. Really, truly Delicious. Yeah. Mm, really good. Yes, we had tamales and salad last night. Yep. I told Omar, I'm gonna go for 2 weeks and eat nothing but eggs and air fried tofu. See what happens to my body. Oh my god. No, yeah, yeah. So I'm not going into Saratoga today. Mm-mm. Uh-oh, I'm not. Truck's riding real nice. I don't know. They must put air in my tires or something. They did more than put air in my tires. I don't know what all they did, but that truck's riding real nice. A lot nicer than it was. So I don't know what all they did. I don't know what all they did, but it looks good. They washed it and waxed it. Like, you waxed my truck. What are you waxing my truck for? Yeah. Oh my god. Mm, yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'll go hoof it today. Go hoofing it. I could go for some hoofing. I could. I could go for some hoofing. Fat girl needs to go hoofing. Fat girl Larissa needs to go hoofing. All right. Me and my udders. Ursula utters, "There's something wrong with your vagina." Oh my God, that John Waters cracks me up. Sylvia Stickles. She's got the itch. Oh my God. Craziness. John Waters. And these filthy hedges out here. They're filthy. Dirty, dirty. I was telling somebody yesterday or the day before, I don't remember, um, something I hadn't thought about for a while. So, like, one time Omar and I stayed at this B&B on a Mennonite veal farm in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And the property, it was the original farm of the founder of Johnstown. And Johnstown is a crappy little town in western Pennsylvania. And anyway, yeah, so the founder is buried on the property, right? Mound of rocks up on the hill. And and the house has been refurbished and stuff, but it's a lot of it's the original barn and farmhouse kind of thing. And anyway, so the first night we're there, I wake up like around 12:30, 1 in the morning, and I'm screaming. And Omar's like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "Please, they're going to put me in the well. They're going to tell them not to put me in the well. Tell them I don't want to go in the well. Tell them not to put me in the well." And I'm screaming this. I'm yelling. And Omar's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like freaking out that they're going to put me in the well. Finally, I calm down and I go back to sleep. Next morning, when everybody gets up, we're sitting at the breakfast table and it's like awkward, Like we were the only ones we were the only guests that were there at that time. It was weird off-season time, right? We were in town for a funeral or something. It wasn't even a funeral, something, some family thing, but it was off-season, right? Not that there's ever an on-season for Johnstown because really there is nothing there. Um, the Flood Museum. Oh, I won't get into it. Anyway, everybody's just kind of like sitting there, be quiet, and like, would you like more orange juice, Larissa? Sure. I'd love more orange juice. How's your coffee, Larissa? Like, it's good. Finally. It's like all awkward. No one's like just eating his breakfast. Finally, the woman. Yeah, because we had chatted the day before we went to come in and everything, and we were friendly and they were nice and whatever. The place was super cute. What, real pretty, classic. I mean, really beautiful woodworking and really interesting. She's like, I want to show you something. I'm like, what? She's like, come here. This is like this little room in a breezeway that you don't go through, like when you come in the hallway where the B&B rooms are, and then you come through another little hallway into the kitchen. So you don't come through this area. It's this little area is like off to the side. In the middle, it's like in the middle of the house, and it's the original well, and it's stone well. It's got a bucket and everything, and it's a hole going down into the ground. She goes, "This is the original well for the property." I'm like, "Whoa." And I'm like, that's really cool. We came back in and sat down, and she said, last night one of our cows calved, and I can't remember what her husband's name is. I didn't actually meet him. He was in bed, or out in the field or something. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't actually meet him. He was always busy or something. But she's like, last night he had to go out. One of our cows calved and it was breech. And she's like, about the time that you got up. I was like, oh. I'm like, well, is everything okay? She's like, yeah, everything's okay. She's like, she came out okay. I'm like, oh, so then everything was okay. And then a little bit later, because there was more to it than just that. Like when I woke up like that, there was a window next to the bed, and there was a man standing in a window, or it looked like a man standing in the window, but it wasn't, right? Like, um, and he was singing this hymn. He was singing this hymn, and it wasn't a hymn that I knew, and so she was asking me. She's like, what happened last night? What was going on? What did you? And because the room that I was staying in was that we were staying in was part of the original house, right? So, um, the hymn was it's a joy to be simple, it's a joy to be plain. It's a Mennonite hymn. I didn't know it. She's like, oh my God. I can't remember. I can't remember now. But she was like, "Whoa!" She's like, "What did he look like?" And I described the guy to her, and she pulled out some photos, and she's like, "It's him. It's him. You saw him." So it was the founder of Johnstown was threatening to throw me in the well. I woke up. That cow was calving. I hadn't thought about that in a while. It was funny. Just to look at. She looked at me. Would you like more orange juice, Larissa? I'm like, sure, yeah, that'd be great. It was funny. It was a little freaky. It was a little freaky. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. Mhm. And the veal farm. Oh, we talked about farming and stuff. And they had, what'd she tell me? They had 40 acres, 30 acres or 40 acres. And they didn't have a whole lot of cows. It was just they had like, and they didn't keep the bull. They paid to have their cows studded, so they didn't keep a bull. All they had were the cows, and they were like, I'm trying to remember looking at, they were brown. I think they were Holsteins. They were brown with a white face. Oh, brown with a white face and a nubby top of their head. Um, those Guernseys, those Guernseys. Anyway, she told me they only had like maybe 10, 20 cows, and um, Yeah, and that they only bred, oh, they only bred like five of them, and the other ones that they just kept from milk, right? And they sold milk and did some cream and butter, but mostly what they did was veal, and so like they had all these little igloos. They were like, and they had the baby cows once, ready for slaughter. I don't know. I don't eat meat. I don't eat meat, but we were talking about it. She's like, yeah, we don't try to keep we try not to keep too many. We try not to breed too many of them at one time, and um, like that way everybody's in good shape and stuff. And but they planted, and so they did crops, and she said that they had to buy their crops. They were buying GE crops, and I was like, ooh. She said, but she said it's so expensive, and she said they have a lot of trouble retaining farm hands, and so that's why her husband was like never around to help out with the B&B. She said they had to start the B&B in order to make ends meet, for the farm. Yeah, they're Mennonite. They weren't plain though. They weren't plain. She goes, no, we're not plain. No, she didn't wear the bonnet or anything. She just wore regular clothes. They were Mennonite. Anyway, anyway, I hadn't thought about that story in a while. Yeah, there's that time I was delivering mushrooms out in West County, Sonoma. I was delivering mushrooms for Charmoon, and I was out in West County, and on one of those back roads, all the pasture and everything everywhere. And that bull had knocked down the fence, and he was like raging. The bull was fucking raging in the middle of the road, was bucking all over the place, and jumping around and snorting, shaking his rack. And I mean, he was just like, he was, and the hand was like standing. He was like freaking out, and he was like running towards me as I was coming down the road, trying to stop my car. And he's like, stop, stop, don't, stop, stop, don't come any closer, don't come any closer. I mean, the animal was out of control. And I was like, what's going on here? As I stopped my little Focus, little Ford Focus, I stopped my little Ford Focus, and I looked at the bull, and he stopped, and he snorted, and he looked at me, and he started to, like he was going to charge the car, and the cowboy, he's like screaming at me, a Mexican guy, a Mexican ranchero, he's running out. He's like waving his arms at me. He's like, no, no, no. I opened the door and I got out, and I just hollered at the bull. I said, hey. And he looked up and he shook his head. I said, what's your problem? I said, now he's got to fix the damn fence. And then he just like stopped, and he looked at the guy, and he looked back at me, and the bull just walked back in the pasture. And the, I don't know if it was the hand or the farmer or whatever. Anyway, he just like looked at me, and he like shook his head, and he just like walked after the bull and started picking up after the fence. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, it was a big animal. It was big. He was big. And there were a bunch of cows that were down in the next field, after the next fence. And they were all like standing there watching. Cows were all like, oh my God. Hey, what's your problem? Now he's got to fix the fence. Mm. I like animals. I do. They're much better than people. People are the worst animals. People are the worst animals. They really, really are. Anyway. Anyway. Yeah. I was watching the bees dance last night. I tried to take some video of it, but you can't. The bees don't show up in the video. Oh my gosh. Even when I like zoom in, I can't see them on the camera. Like I can see them with my eyeballs. I'd have to go down there, but if I went down there, they'd like, I think they'd all scatter. I don't know. But I watched them. I like them. I like going out. You got up at like 4:30. You got out there like 4:15, 4:15, 4:30. It's like the whole hive is down in that little area where the ferns are. And they dance all over the place. They fly up and down and up and down. Bouncy, 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 bouncy from fern to fern all around. And then about 4:50, 4:55, some of them start flying back to the hive. They bounce up and then they straight line back to the hive. Watch them. Yeah. But at that time, it's like that's when the sun shifts. Sun shifts, and so as long as the light is on the ferns down there, that's when they like to go down there. Is when the sun's on the ferns, when the ferns are warm. So yeah. Oh, yeah. Anyway. Anyway. Tomorrow we'll start packing up. I'm really grateful to have my truck back. Thank you, North Bay Ford. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.